Hear some dog shaking. T1's opening with their Brawl comp. Runaway's playing very high counter dive. They actually just did. Runaway just performed the actions that T1 should have been performing for the entirety of the last points of Dorado. Was see the Zen, stun the Genji. Like that just never happened. Because see Runaway's rotating and Bumper's looking. This is exactly what they need to do. So Runaway is doing exactly what T1 needed to do. Is like, you see they're trying to rotate around. They have the speed boost. They're trying to engage on them quickly. Hawksaw, Janu, and Bumper are all trying to put themselves in the line of fire and in front of T1 so that there will not be any members shooting them from the front being able to dive. They'll have to go through all the tanky members before then. You have the members, the back line that potentially will play somewhere over here so they won't have to be as scared and they can play safer while they'll have the longer range to deal with T1. It's just a bit poor. I feel like they couldn't when they started rotating, so let's see. Yes, the members have already crossed, so they needed to start rotating a little bit sooner than this. Take poke. Yeah, I think they just got caught because they have speed boost. T1 also loses right here if they do not get these kills, because their sustain's actually pretty low. Runaway is switching to Sombra. T1's sticking their comp. It will be really good if they're able to like take this ground from Runaway, so they're able to like push the D.Va out right now, and then have people on the point. It's good. They need to have pressure on this Brig right now. If they allow the Brig to basically pop armor and they're walking in, they have a lot of sustain, they're not going to be able to beat them. Unless they hit an anti or they shut down the Brig enough. No more anti, no more backline. That was quite a fast cap. The only problem they might have had there was their monkey has actually gotten pretty low, and there was a chance that they aren't able to sustain him and then he dies. But they were able to get the kills fast enough. That didn't matter too much. You saw that right there. It's small, but Hawksaw's actually playing a position where he's looking for the Sombra, so he's looking at his supports right here, and basically wherever the Sombra goes, if she goes somewhere over here, and she's looking for a hack, he has the chance to potentially burst her from behind, and she won't suspect it. They're swapping their comp up completely. I don't know if I like the Ana with the Kree as much. I feel like it doesn't offer enough damage. But the members of their team got caught out. I actually don't know how. They lost Twilight early on. So they just need a PO. Janu does a good job. So when Janu does this, he basically forces the Mercy to stick onto the Pharah or they're going to lose the Pharah. So the Mercy wants to stick with the Pharah right here. He needs to drop off immediately and start helping his other teammates. But Runaway is actually doing a good job of having enough members on them where they're not able to keep each other alive. So the Brig and the Lucio basically get killed because it's like 4 members or whatever. They just needed to back off completely once they got the advantage. So T1 just didn't have the tankiness to maintain that long fight. Janu had good target prioritization as well. You always focus the Pharah whenever she's as close like that, and you'll force the Mercy to stick with her, and she won't be able to peel back and help any of her other teammates, or she'll choose to let the Pharah die. It's actually pretty huge right here. Can I... Twilight is actively throwing his nade right here as they're about to get EMP'd. So they're basically fighting already, because we can see Haxa's fighting Happy, and then I think there's Bumper. Someone else is on silver as well, so they're not getting healed. T1's front line isn't getting healed as effectively. They're going for this EMP. Sure, they hit Haxa, and he hasn't allowed to heal, but he has Inspire and the nade up, so he's not going to die. So Runaway's opening with the comp they just played. T1's making some adjustments. Need to make sure they keep their supports alive here. See if Runaway swaps. What did they even swap here? Sombra? Widow? Okay, there. Okay, mirror snipers. Runaway technically doesn't need to dive anything here. They can take ground slowly. They can walk up from main, take the ground slowly, let Bumper take shots, let Janu take shots, find out where this Widow is, and then set up so that they can crossfire with both their snipers. And once the ball is on the point like this, he loses a lot of his pressure because he isn't allowed to swing in as aggressive spots as he would like to. You can see right there, they basically just isolate the Hammond just starts swinging, and so the D.Va really has nowhere to go to without getting crossfired by everyone. Runaway did so well there to like nullify Crystal's line of sight. They just like all hugged the right wall, so he basically had no line of sight, and if you force him to walk out enough, then you can put both the tanks on him and you can discord him. And there would be no one to counterdive at that point. They just have to have the Brig stand close to him, but if they put pressure on the point because they got the suit so early, then someone has to contest or they lose the point. So on one's touching, they kill him. They force the Widow to rotate, they just kill him after. T1's tanks aren't allowed to do anything here. Bumper almost dropped into the bombs. Let's go back. So when they're in a situation like this, Runaway always has priority because the ball doesn't have priority on diving the backline. They do not want to dive. T1 wants to bake them in. I don't actually know. I think they're sticking on the ball just to try to counter dive, but the ball, there's nowhere for him to swing to get good pressure on their backline to shut down their snipers. Because we can see Runaway's Widow is over here, so there's no way for the ball to put real pressure on him, and then the Hanzo's over here. So there's no good way. If he goes over here, he's going to be diving into a bunch of people. The Widow's still going to be able to shoot him from this side, so T1 doesn't want to do that. Their plan of attack is like, I'm not sure exactly what they try to do. Out-snipe them, because they had the Widow playing behind the Brig to potentially give him like a 1-up on Stitch, but Hawksaw is able to get the headshot on the Zen. You can see they're all basically counter diving at that point, and then Bumper is going to get full pressure, and he's going to be able to lock people into the room. So he technically had like 3 people in the room with him. The Widow walks back a little bit to walk away from the monkey, and then just gets headshot by the other Widow. So this is exactly what you want to do if you have double sniper. Use your tanks for positioning, and you let your snipers just get the free shots once the once T1's out of position. Let's move forward. Runaway's adapted. They have Genji Sombra now. I really like their defense. I feel like this should be the standard defense for a lot of teams. T1's doing a very similar. Runaway somewhat hides and actually baits right here. So we see T1 did basically the same default when they went to the same high ground, but this time there was someone to actually check in this room, so there wasn't anyone to check in this room before. So Hawksaw's fighting here, but the supports are both right next to him, so he has no threat on him while he's contesting the Sombra who's flanking. You can now see they're trying to engage. Runaway has all their members here though. So these members back here, the Ana and the Zen, are both rotating through the building, so they're in a somewhat safe spot. But then the rest of the Runaway are in a position where they can start to play aggressively on these members that are rotating on the high ground. So they try to go for a play the Sombra does. She should be in the room rather than being on the point. All these members start to rotate. So you saw all the members started to rotate from here for T1, and then Bumper immediately comes up here to match all of them. He's able to jump on them, along with Hawksaw. So it's very risky what Runaway did, but they were able to bait T1 enough to commit, and then they basically just allowed Hawksaw to have as much room as possible. And it's not the end of the world because they have these mega health to sustain. They make sure they protect their supports better here though. Oh, Hawksaw did really good to dodge that. The blade goes off. It's always in Runaway's favor as well. T1 needs to be close to their supports to get any heals. There's no burst healing either. They don't have any health kits hacked. They keep going into Runaway's territory where they have the mega health kit hacked. They did pretty good there to occupy Twilight and force Slime to swap, and then they engage on someone on point. So they do kill Hacksaw, which is good. Twilight gets so much value there. He gets taken so low, but he zones one tank and then finishes off the Diva Met. T1 should try to rotate to the other side. I think that if T1 goes to the left side with the majority of the members and lets the Tracer flank from the right, they'll have a better opportunity, but... Okay, that's what they're going for now. Can look to dive from this angle. You get a lot closer and you can zone the tanks. So whenever they do this setup, let me go back. Just muted the volume, turned it on. So we can see when they climb up here, the members automatically here have to start their rotation so that you can either go back here into the point, but it enables all these members that are now on the point to then start getting poked at. So Bumper starts getting poked and there's no way for him to get any heals unless he jumps on the Mega. But that's exactly where T1 want to go. So they did really good to actually have a good rotation here and get Bumper first. Their tanks both took a ton of damage though. And they don't have that sustain to really keep them up. Yeah, that was highly losable for Runaway. That bomb is massive. They're still trying to force this Lucio brig. I think it's to their detriment. I think they need to have a Zen. Have Zen or Ana. Like, Runaway is committing a lot, but if they mirror them every single time, then they're never building an ult economy for themselves. And they keep having the problem of they're not getting enough value because they don't have discords to really, like, effectively dive someone enough. And then their tanks are getting traded on this whole time. That's how long Silver 3 stays low here. There's no way for him to heal in these fights. He just gets taken low and has to play super passively. Runaway keeps trading one of their DPS or one of their tanks, but they have time to just come back each time. He's gonna get staggered. What's her dad again? Yeah, they had 6 minutes and they hard forced this Brig Lucio. It might be comfort for them, but if you have this high of a time bank, you need to ensure that you're going to win. You can basically just stack your double ults, double support ults, and then just win with that. Look to snowball. I think they just had a problem of every single time one of the tanks would get discord, they would get blasted, and they'd have no way to sustain them in the fights, because if they did have the Sombra, they were fighting on the side of the map where Runaway already had all the health gets hacked. If they tried to rotate and they tried to get on the Zen and Lucio, they would either zone them or they would kill one of Runaway's tanks, but the damage would already be done to them, where they had no way of resetting and like getting the HP back. So I feel like that's where they run the Ana. They can take the ground at the same pace that they were, but they have a place to reset. So the Ana, they can drop down, one of the tanks can drop down, the Ana can drop a bio and like instantly full heal them. But the problem was just, if they're running in and diving on the top right high ground, the Brig potentially isn't hitting anyone. And if Runaway plays passively enough, they can have it so their tanks don't trade any hits. Brig doesn't get Inspire up. Brig doesn't do any healing. And that's like only having one healer on the point for T1. And then Runaway is able to just out-sustain in the fact that they can fight on the health kits. T1 has no area to reset. If the Brig's just getting poked by Sombra and Genji, she can't hit anyone. She's having to play super passively. I feel like you just have to make that swap. They're just hard stuck on that comp for way too long. They were clearly getting countered. They needed to make the swap, but they just never made the call to. So